Today, in the House of Commons, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau accused the Tories of planting the bug in Elmer MacKay's office to frame the government. Joe Clark called his bluff. The experts who have been examining the foreign objects found in the opposition leader's phone have concluded that it is a listening device. Dan McGarry of Centurion Investigations Limited and Bill Sandiford of Uniserve Sound and Signal are standing by in Ottawa.
Gentlemen, can you give us the specifics of this device?
Go ahead, Bill. It is made of discrete components. In other words, the type of device that was located in this particular phone itself was not a listening device. It converted, by use of discrete components, the phone itself to a listening device.
How many parts did you find in the phone? This thing that was originally called a diode, what was that?
For security reasons, we don't say how many parts are required because we'd have every hobbyist in the country trying to convert his phone into a listening device. But it was more than two.
And the parts are available where?
The parts at this end, at the set end, would be available at recognized electronic wholesales. But you would have to know what parts, what to buy.
And how to place them on the telephone.
Did it have any trade name stamped on it?
The diode? Yes. It was made by GE.
And the word dial-o-matic, do you know that word? That's a phone that you can activate by dialing in with a whistle.
Yes, well, that we refer to it in the trade as more of a blue box, or what you're also thinking. I think you have it confused. There is also something similar called a telematic.
Right, or the blue box, or a mother.
Now, how is this different?
Pardon?
Is this the purpose as well, that you can use it to activate and turn into a speaker?
Well, what you must do, Mrs. Fromm, is you must first compromise the telephone set at the target location. I refer to the target location as a phone that you might want to turn into an intrusion device. Then you must use your term, the dial-o-matic, or our terms, the blue box, or the activator at a remote phone, in which you could then dial up that number before the telephone number rings that you've dialed at the target end. You activate your tone down the line, which would stop the bells from ringing, and it switches the telephone company equipment into a direct connection to that line.
Could you dial out on the same phone? It doesn't interfere with normal ringing?
What we had here, Mrs. Fromm, was that this phone was equipped with what we call a hook switch bypass. In other words, when the phone is on the hook, it's not on the hook electronically exactly. And when the phone is off the hook, it's connected up directly to the telephone exchange, and it does not interfere with the operation of the telephone.
Let me make sure I'm understanding you. You can listen to it when it's on the hook. You can listen to the room through it.
That's the idea.
When it's in use, you can hear what's being said.
Yes.
The discovery of this thing a couple of days ago, you said at the beginning you couldn't say what it was. Why not? Was that a political consideration of Joe Clark's, or was that you were still investigating?
Oh, I think... go ahead, Mr.
In relation to this, we have to check it out completely and thoroughly before we would give a decision on it. So the first one that was discovered was very obvious what it was, and it was certainly a foreign object to the piece of furniture it was inserted into. This particular thing being attached to the phone, we knew in the beginning, we were sure what we had found, but we wanted to make sure 110% before we advised our client of what it was, and it allowed him to make whatever revelation he wanted to in relation to it.
And how did you establish 110%?
By going over the equipment thoroughly, by checking with all of our own experts, and by checking with any other outside experts, and by testing, and we then were sure of that 110% of what it was.
Have you been able, Mr. McGarry, to activate that phone? Have you been able to make it work as an intrusion device yourselves?
I'll leave it to Bill to answer that one.
Due to all standard practices in countermeasures, a simulated device was shall I use for a better word, a facsimile of the device was constructed. It was tested out.
Is it fair to say that there would be no way to trace what it was connected to? It's a wireless connection.
very fair to say that because
We've tried.
we've tried.
What have you tried to do?
To trace to where it would be getting received, and it isn't the first time we've tried. We've tried from other devices we've found, and that's the beauty of this type of foreign equipment that's inserted to gather information of certain types, that it's, unless you catch them doing it, once they've done it and utilize it, it's very hard to impossible to trace it.
Thank you both.
Dan McGarry and Bill Sandiford spoke to us from Ottawa.